It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
At a time like this, it's very important that your choice for getting information, factual information, is carefully chosen. For instance, if you're stuck on the internet is a toxic pool of miscreants, malcontents, reprobates. And you really have to search hard for diamonds in the rough there. They exist. We have a wonderful couple of social sites on Twitter and so forth. And I try to communicate as many people as I can during the day when I'm not on radio or TV or Liberty's Voice podcast to present that information to you. I give my own opinions, and I have links where you can read some of the backup information or some of the articles I think are worthwhile or some of the individuals I think are worthwhile. But we also have America-hating propagandists, racists, bigots, Christian haters, Jew haters, a lot of bots, a lot of foreign citizens. And it's hard to know what's what. But after a while, you can figure it out. Our president will go down in history as one of the greatest of all. He certainly will. For a lot of reasons. But at the core of Donald Trump's beliefs is his love of this country. He will do anything to protect it, whether on the border, finances, a strong military, and foreign enemies. He's made NATO stronger. He's certainly made our border stronger. He's made our military stronger. He's brought patriotism back to the nation. And people who are Trump supporters feel very good when they go to bed at night knowing that he's president of the United States. And compare him to Biden, compare him to Obama, compare him to the other ones. There's no comparison. Now, as president of the United States, he's not an establishment Republican. He comes to this job with decades of entrepreneurship, his own experiences, his ability to analyze and draw conclusions. He's able to cut through all the red tape, all the static. He doesn't want to go to war, but then again, he will do what has to be done to protect the American people, who he loves. He's a patriot's patriot. And then we have another group of people who are ideologues. Some of them are Marxists. They want the destruction of the country. They come out of Europe. They come out of our colleges and universities. They're professors. They're graduate students and so forth. Then we have Islamists who've come to this country for the purpose of destroying it from within. Then we have 1930s neo-fascists, what I call the woke Reich, R-E-I-C-H, Reich, as in Third Reich. They sound like the Third Reich, but just like the Third Reich, they hate representative government. We believe in Make America Great Again. It was actually a phrase that was invented in 1984 by the Reagan campaign. Make America Great Again, MAGA. And in many ways, Donald Trump is similar to Reagan. I really cringe every time Lindsey Graham, who I'm friendly with, I like him, don't always agree with him, when he keeps saying this one's better than Reagan and Reagan and Reagan and Reagan plus and Reagan. He doesn't have to keep diminishing Reagan in order to promote Trump, who's his own man. Who's his own man. I mean, give Reagan his cred, too. He defeated the Soviet Union and liberated 250 million people, which nobody could do after World War II. We had this horrendous Cold War, but he did it. That doesn't diminish President Trump either. These are two great men, two great presidents. So I'm not into the cheap political lines about Reagan plus or Reagan this. Donald Trump, in his own skin, is a great president. And unfortunately, most of the time, great presidents aren't recognized until well after they're gone. Abraham Lincoln was not thought of a great president. He almost lost his second election. But he was a great president. And there were others too. So, I want to point a few things out that are very, very important. And it's this. We have an enemy within. We have enemies within. The Marxists, the Islamists, and these neo-fascists. And they want you to believe that they're MAGA. Megyn Kelly wants you to believe she's MAGA. No, she's MAGAT. Quite different. She's horrendous. She is a chameleon. She's got more facelifts, I think, than Nancy Pelosi. But what do I know? All I know is she has that constipated look on her face constantly. And she's become, in my view, a real good Jew hater. That's what I hear. That's what I believe. You know, the funny thing is when you call Jew haters, they say, oh, you call everybody a Jew hater. No, I don't. I call Jew haters Jew haters. I call Christian haters Christian haters. I call Marxists Marxists, fascists fascists, constitutional conservatives constitutional conservatives. They hide behind semantics. But she has her head up Tucker Carlson's ass. 100%. She's trying to ride his podcast numbers. It's quite obvious. She's a big deal friend of Candace Owens. Tell me, how many of you are friends of a Jew hater, of a Christian basher, of a Trump basher, and on and on and on? I don't have friends like that. Do you, Mr. Producer? And why am I bringing this up now? I'll tell you why. Because they're trashing the president, they're trashing our military, and they're trashing our country as I speak. And the good-for-nothing media, the John Carls of ABC News, loathsome reprobates like that, are using them to go after Trump, to go after our military, to go after our alliance with Israel. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? The alliance now against Iran includes most of the Arab states. Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And so what's happening is Carlson, Kelly, and these lesser reprobates, but they're reprobates nonetheless, this little cabal, they're leaking to the media calling them up for interviews, and they're all trashing Trump. That he's a disgrace and that he's evil. That's Carlson. That he's a disgrace and he's evil. In the middle of military combat, a military campaign. Megyn Kelly's blaming the Jews. You know what? She is a dumb blonde, come to think of it. If she is a blonde, maybe she's not even a blonde. I don't much care. But dumber than a doorknob. Multiple facelifts to go with it. I'm sorry, I call them as I see them. We haven't heard much from bloated Bannon. No. He's busy trying to distract from the Epstein tapes. But nonetheless, these are serious matters. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, you could see it immediately. You've got a couple of these Islamists like, can't remember that, Cenk Uygur, is that his name? Him. What trash. Absolute pig. You got this guy, Mehdi Hassan. He should be denaturalized and deported. He is a vile American-hating, real POS. Our immigration system to allow these people into the country is so horrendous. And they all have one thing in common. Their hatred for America. They hate our Constitution. They hate our construct. They hate the founders. They lie with the Islamists. But here's the point. Carlson and his ilk having a really bad day. Because their benefactors, or at least their taskmasters, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, have signed on with a whole bunch of Arab states condemning Iran, saying they are going to back the United States. So the United States and Israel and about 14 other countries, many of the Gulf Arab countries, are aligned against the Islamist Nazi regime in Tehran. And so what does Carlson do today on his podcast? He blames the Jews. And I'm thinking, now how the hell do you do that? He blames Trump. He blames Netanyahu. He blames me. Blames us. Blames us for what? What? See, he thinks Donald Trump is a stupid man. He has said it. They have texts of him saying it. He has cursed Donald Trump. He despises Donald Trump, but he wants to be seen with Donald Trump. He wants to be around Donald Trump because he wants to give the impression he has enormous influence. He has no influence. Zero. Tucker Carlson took the side of the enemy. Megyn Kelly took the side of the enemy. They've taken the side of the enemy against our military. Is this Make America Great Again? Is this peace through strength? And what is the imminent threat I keep hearing? What's the imminent threat? Why did we have to act now? I even see it on cable. I hear it from people who claim to be MAGA. Oh, this is a simple one.
Mark Levin.
Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
Boy, I'll tell you what, folks, all over the internet, Carlson and Kelly and those people, they're getting slammed. They really are, because it's embarrassing. And we Americans are patriotic. Our affiliates are owned by patriotic companies and individuals. I want to hear this stuff about attacking our armed forces, attacking our president like this. It's just awful. It's horrible. I want you to check out Liberty's Voice video podcast after our radio program, if you will. You can check it out at Rumble by following me. You can check it out at YouTube by subscribing, but it's all free. I don't charge a penny. Liberty's Voice on Rumble and YouTube. In part, here's what I say today. Cut one, go. It's time for we, the people, to stand up and be heard. It's time for we, the people, to show that we are united. It's time for we, the people, to back our military in the middle of a major military campaign trying to destroy an enemy that seeks to blow us off the face of the earth. Khomeini dead in 15 hours of the campaign beginning. 40 of the top Islamo-Nazis dead, taken out within 24 hours. The skies are wide open. Their navy's been all but destroyed. The world is coalescing and uniting behind us. Even the Arab nations, even the Islamist Arab nations. The only people who are not backing the president in what we are doing, our military. The Democrats, the Marxists, the Islamists, Tucker Carlson, and his cabal, woke Reich. Cut two, go. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we have a commander-in-chief in the United States military working side by side with the Prime Minister of Israel and the IDF to destroy the devil, to destroy an individual and a regime that has killed over 1,000 Americans, maimed thousands and thousands of Americans, that has used terrorism to attack us, that has blown up buildings, blown up our embassies, killed over 250 of our Marines, and on and on and on. And finally, we have a commander-in-chief who said enough is enough. Our fantastic military, our great allies, and we're at war here at home with the radical leftists, the Democrat Party, the media, and these neo-fascist traitors, these isolationists. They're all working together as a cabal to try and destroy this effort, this campaign, righteous and noble, from within, trying to dispirit the American people, trying to create disunity, undermine our armed forces who are in harm's way. Now, we have to speak out and speak up.
And lastly, cut 3, go.
The media support the enemy. They always do. The media supported Hamas against Israel. The media now support the Islamist Nazi regime, such as what's left of it, in Iran against we the people. Now, they'll deny it. Who cares if they deny it? You know what's amazing? Our early victories have been so monumental, taking out Khomeini, taking out 40 of his top leaders. So monumental that today, Monday, the enemy within is desperate. They're panicked, and they're now doing everything humanly possible, using media platforms, using betrayers and traitors, neo-fascists, who claim to be MAGA, who claim to represent you and me, to try and destroy this military campaign. Now, let's get right down to it. The fact of the matter is, so successful is this campaign that we're now being joined by the Quislings in France, in Britain, and the rest of Europe. So successful is this campaign. You know who's endorsing this effort and likely joining this effort? Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and a half a dozen other Arab countries, even adversaries. The world is rallying around the United States of America because of our president, because of our military, because of our victories.
We should be proud, ladies and gentlemen, I'm live now, of our president, of our heroes in the military. We should be proud of the effectiveness of our military. It's been spectacular. We should be proud of our alliance with Israel and their incredible prime minister and how we're working hand in glove. I don't think there's ever been an alliance like this before, certainly not in the Middle East. And their military is exceptional, exceptional. We should be thrilled that as I speak to you tonight, so many of the Arab nations in that part of the world, at first against this effort, then neutral on the effort, now support the United States of America. To do what? To eliminate the regime in Tehran. 14 additional countries. We should be thrilled that France has now decided to send their nuclear carrier, the De Gaulle. Germany and is supportive. Britain barely, but they're now allowing us to use the air bases there. The world supports what we're doing, the vast majority of it. The communist Chinese don't, because this hampers them significantly. They were getting cheap oil from Iran. That won't happen anymore. They were getting cheap oil from Venezuela. That's not happening anymore. So they don't know exactly how they're going to fuel their fleets. This is hugely important geopolitically and militarily. Hugely important. The Russians have been relying on drones manufactured by the Iranian regime. Imagine the amount of death that will be reduced in that war against the Ukrainians by that act alone. This changes everything. And the fact of the matter is, the regime will no longer be able to fund terrorism against us. Does it not matter that they've killed about 1,000 of our military personnel
and maimed thousands more? Does it not matter that they've killed hundreds of our fellow citizens? Does it not matter that they've tried to assassinate our president twice? And they ask, what does imminent mean? Is it imminent? No, we'll wait around and see. Like with North Korea, that now has 50 nuclear weapons and 6 to 7 more every single year. Is that an imminent threat? But here we have an instance where the people rose up. 90% of the Persians, the citizens of Iran, want to rid themselves of that government, and they've died trying to do so. We are in alliance with the people of Iran. Now, the fact that Qatar, the number one or number two with Iran funder of terrorism, the fact that Qatar, which was as close to Iran as Megyn Kelly is to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, I mean tight, has now turned on them. That's what happens when you have great leadership in Washington and Jerusalem. That's what happens. That's right. Were the Qataris dragged into this war by me and Netanyahu? Were the Saudis dragged into this war by me and Netanyahu? England, France, Germany, 10 other Arab states? Were they dragged into this war by Netanyahu and me? How sick is this? How stupid is this? The reason I am hated by these people, and I mean really, really hated, is because I'm the first to take them on and the first to expose them. And now it's an avalanche of criticism, an avalanche of research done on who these individuals really are. They're the enemies of the country. That's what they are. If you can't support our commander-in-chief and our military at a time like this, and your words are spoken and they are so toxic that the Iranian regime on its last legs are using your words, Tucker Carlson, on their state-run TV, using your words against our country and our president. The Muslim Brotherhood tonight using Tucker Carlson's words against we, the people of the United States, and our military. Is there anything as cancerous than that? I ask you. Is there? Patriotic Americans, Mr. and Mrs. America, red-blooded Americans. What do you make of this? And I spent a lot of time on this show and on Liberty's Voice, today's program, on YouTube and Rumble. Here's the President of the United States, a tremendous patriot, a tremendous president. At the White House today, cut 4, go.
Let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury. Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile program was growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden by us nuclear weapons. We were the ones that were complaining. We were the ones that wanted it stopped. But everybody was behind us. They just didn't have the courage to say so.
I want to skip the cut 6 now, Mr. Producer. Go.
Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon, never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders. And we thought we had a deal, but then they backed out, and they came back, and we thought we had a deal, and they backed out. I said, you can't deal with these people. You got to do it the right way.
And the president tried and tried and tried diplomacy, tried negotiation, and it didn't work. It wasn't a head fake. It wasn't a strategy to attack. He wanted a deal. They did not.
Mark Levin. You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
My video podcast has been very news-breaking, very, very important. It's called Liberty's Voice. We did our 7th episode today. It's all free. Marco pays for it all. You can go to Rumble and view it there. You can go to YouTube and view it there. At Rumble, you can follow us. At YouTube, you can subscribe, but you can view it at either location. Very important program today, and I hope you'll check it out. Over at Liberty's Voice, I want to thank Rumble, which has done a fantastic job. We'll thank YouTube, too, but Rumble has done a fantastic job. And I want to thank my executive producer, David, my producer, Josh, Westwood One, that is very supportive of this project. And we're just getting started, so it's really just a newborn baby. Other people have been doing this for years and years and years, so it takes a little time to build followers and listeners. But I want to encourage you folks to be among them. At YouTube and Rumble. If you don't know how to use YouTube or Rumble, ask your family member or just go into Google. It'll show you how to do it. But the program is called Liberty's Voice for a reason. I hope you'll take advantage of it because, again, it is intended to mesh with the radio program and the TV show to build up all the audiences on all the platforms and, all the different technologies to really build a juggernaut for the midterm elections so we can save this nation from what would be a horrible fate if the Democrats win the House and or the Senate. This is what we're going to do. We Thomas Paines. We Paul Revere's. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your background is. You don't have to be a big shot. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be any of those things. Just be interested. So please join us in this new endeavor. It's very important. Liberty's Voice at Rumble. You can follow us there. YouTube, subscribe. When I say subscribe, it's something I got to pay. You don't have to pay a thing. And you can just view us right there. We also have some of the best, I think, input in our social sites because I'm working it hard these days because there's so much at stake. So on X, a.k.a. Twitter, we're on Facebook. Where else are we, Rich? I don't even know. TikTok, Instagram, Truth Social, of course. We're on all of them. All of them. So we've really expanded our reach. We think it's very, very important. I do. And there's a lot I want to get to tonight. But before I do, it's Purim. It's the Jewish holiday of Purim. And if you're Persian, you had a role in this. I want to read something to you. Written by a gentleman who is a Moroccan, a journalist, a Muslim, and he appears to be an all-around good guy. Adil Fawzi, writing in the Times of Israel. When the Mossad launched a Farsi-language telegram channel on Saturday morning, this Saturday morning, hours into Operation Roaring Lion, or what we call, the hell do we call it again? Fury. Epic Fury. And addressed Iranians as our brothers and sisters, quote unquote, promising that, quote, together we will return Iran to its glorious days. The predictable chorus erupted across Arab capitals and Western campuses alike. Who are the Jews to appoint themselves liberators of Iran? By what right does Israel, of all nations, presume to speak of freeing a people it has never governed and a land it has never occupied? Now, the objection sounds reasonable until you open a history book, at which point it collapses entirely. Because the relationship between Jews and Persians is not a geopolitical convenience manufactured in 2026. If you listen to the Jew haters, that's what they say. It is one of the oldest, deepest, most consequential alliances in the recorded history of civilization. And what Israel did on Saturday was not colonial arrogance, but the repayment of a debt that is 25 centuries old. In 586 BCE, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II destroyed Solomon's temple, the first temple, razed Jerusalem, and marched the Jewish people into exile. Babylonian captivity, one of the defining catastrophes of Jewish history. For 70 years, the Jewish nation existed in bondage, its holiest site in ruins, its people scattered across a foreign empire with no army, no sovereignty, no realistic hope of return. And then, in 539 BCE, Cyrus the Great, a Persian, not a Jew, conquered Babylon and issued the decree that altered the trajectory of Jewish civilization permanently. The Edict of Cyrus permitted the Jews to return to Jerusalem, to rebuild their temple, and reconstitute their national life in the land from which they had been torn. He didn't merely allow the return, he financed it, sending back the sacred vessels that Nebuchadnezzar had plundered and providing resources for reconstruction. The Hebrew Bible records the decree in terms so exalted that Cyrus remains to this day the only non-Jew ever referred to in Jewish scripture as Mashiach, God's anointed. The book of Isaiah, written before Cyrus was born, calls him by name and declares him chosen by God to liberate his people. No other Gentile figure in 3,000 years of Jewish literature occupies this position. The Persian king who freed the Jews is embedded in Jewish consciousness, not as a political ally, but a divine instrument, and the gratitude is not metaphorical. It is theological, liturgical, and civilizational. This was not a singular episode. The Persian-Jewish relationship extended across centuries under the Achaemenid dynasty. Darius I continued Cyrus's policies and contributed to the completion of the Second Temple in 515 BCE. The book of Esther, read aloud in every synagogue on Purim, records how Esther and Mordecai, operating within the Persian court of King Ahasuerus, foiled Haman's plot to exterminate every Jew in the empire. Do you know where Esther is buried, Mr. Producer? In Iran. The Festival of Purim is, at its core, a celebration of Persian-Jewish solidarity. A Jewish queen, trusted by a Persian king, intervening within the structures of Persian power to save her people from annihilation. That this strike fell on Purim, the very day Jews read the Megillah recounting how the last man who plotted Jewish destruction from Persian soil was himself destroyed, carried a symmetry so precise that for many in the Jewish world, it felt less like coincidence and more like the closing of a circle that history itself had drawn. And this is the point that those who mock Israel's rhetoric of liberation either do not know or choose to ignore. Persians are not Arabs. The Persian relationship with the Jewish people has never been defined by the eliminationist hostility that characterized much of the Arab world's posture towards Jewish sovereignty. Iranians did not invade Israel in 1948. Iranians did not block the Straits of Tiran. Iranians did not chant for the destruction of the Jewish state in 1967. Under the Shah, Iran was one of the first Muslim-majority nations to recognize Israel, maintained full diplomatic relations, cooperated on intelligence and infrastructure, and hosted a thriving Jewish community that had existed continuously in Persia's soil for 27 centuries, one of the oldest Jewish diaspora communities in the world. The rupture came in 1979, and it was not the Iranian people who chose enmity toward the Jews. It was the theocratic regime that hijacked their revolution, imposed Shia Islamist ideology onto an ancient, pluralistic civilization, and adopted the Arab world's anti-Zionist vocabulary as a tool of domestic and regional control. The death to Israel chants were manufactured by a clerical establishment that needed an external enemy to justify internal repression, not by the heirs of Cyrus, who'd been intermarrying with Jews, trading with Jews, and protecting Jews since before the Parthenon was built. This is why the Mossad's message resonated as deeply as it did among the Iranian diaspora, not because Iranians are naive about Israeli motives, but because they recognize in it something that the cynics could not see, an acknowledgement that the Iranian people are not their regime, that a civilization that produced Cyrus, Hafez, Ferdowsi, Rumi, and Alfacina cannot be reduced to the theocratic junta that censored their poetry, murdered their daughters for showing their hair, and turned their ancient nation into a pariah state, synonymous with enriched uranium and proxy warfare. When Netanyahu declared that the operation would create the conditions for the brave Iranian people to take their destiny into their own hands, quote unquote, he was not speaking the language of colonial imposition. He was speaking the language of a debt that stretches back to a clay cylinder in the British Museum, inscribed with the words of a Persian king who 25 centuries ago looked at a captive Jewish nation and said, "Go home, rebuild, and live." The Jews remember. And on Saturday, in the skies over Tehran, they began to repay. I thought you should know. And now you know why the Persians and the Jews march in the street, carrying each other's flags, celebrating each other's cultures and people. It's a magnificent relationship, and now you know why that regime hijacked that country, hijacked its people, and used the resources in that country to try and destroy the Jewish state, first and foremost. I'm going to tell you something right now. There's two men who live today who are going to be remembered for thousands of years like a King Cyrus. Benjamin Netanyahu will be remembered as the greatest leader of the Jews in modern times, period. Donald Trump will be remembered as one of the greatest leaders of the free world, period. For 1,000 years, 2,000 years, as long as humanity survives. We tell these stories of ancient history. We look in the Bible. These two men are that important. And they've proven themselves by the opposition they face domestically and internationally. The obstacles they've overcome in their own countries.
The lack of appreciation for both of them. But history has a way of fixing things. These are two men who've aligned together, to stop the annihilation of the world with nuclear weapons by a 7th century primitive barbaric ideology and regime. The Lilliputians, the everyday cheap politicians, are everyday cheap politicians. But when you step back and you look at it, what these men have been up against, people tried to destroy them. People still try to destroy them, tried to kill them, try to put them in prison. And they rose up above it all. I believe God has a purpose. I really do. These men will be remembered for thousands of years. Thousands of years. And the rest of them won't be. This show is different from any show on radio, any show on TV, any podcast, any of it. Because I think history is crucial to having a context for your thinking process. You go on the internet today, you're going to have a bunch of haters, vile people, throwing around slogans, calling people's names. We have a site on all these different social media platforms. And I insist on using them to get the word out, to fight these hostile elements, to promote our country and our belief system. I insist on it. I cannot let them devour these platforms and use them for horrible things. It's the same with video podcasting. We're really some of the most horrible people in the country, making enormous amounts of money because they've figured out that by being Jew haters or Persian haters or Christian haters or race baiters or bigots or whatever they are, they have figured out that they can make a lot of money. That just shows you how sick some of the cultures around the world are and how sick some elements in our own culture are. We have to push against it. Liberty's Voice on Rumble and YouTube. We're counting on you and many more.
Mark Levin. The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
This show is dedicated to the men and women of the armed forces of the United States. In honor of them, celebrating them, and the unbelievable accomplishments that they are demonstrating to the entire world each and every hour of each and every day. And to our great allies, the Israelis and the IDF. We've never had a better ally. The two greatest air forces on the face of the earth, according to CENTCOM and Pete Hegseth. And I say this proudly, as an American. While Spain sat on the sidelines, Britain sat on the sidelines, France sat on the sidelines, Germany sat on the sidelines, not little Israel. We have an enemy within, ladies and gentlemen. They're called Congressional Democrats. We have an enemy within, ladies and gentlemen. They're called Marxists and Islamists. An enemy within. They're called Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly. Steve Bannon. And a host of others. 85% of Republicans support the President of the United States and the United States military. Almost the opposite amount of Democrats. And so the Democrats, in order to counter this spectacular military campaign, it's a peace mission. It's a peace mission for us, for the Middle East, for the entire world. It's a peace mission. Operation Epic Fury. They have launched Operation Sabotage. And they're trying to sabotage our men and women in uniform, our military. They're trying to sabotage the commander-in-chief, President Trump.
They're trying to sabotage our allies, the Israelis and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And they will fail. Because we red-blooded Americans, you patriots, Mr. and Mrs. America, you want us to crush this enemy. Crush it. For all time. No more threats about nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons attacking us, we the American people, and our children and our grandchildren. No more half a century of terrorism, of killing our troops, of killing our civilians, of attacking our embassies. That comes to an end now. And then we have fake MAGA that says this isn't what Donald Trump campaigned on. Excuse me. Did Donald Trump campaign on appeasement? Did Donald Trump campaign on surrender? Did Donald Trump campaign that we should be controlled by the whims and the will of an Islamist Nazi regime in Tehran that threatens us, that kills us, that uses terrorists to attack us? Peace through strength. He's not an interventionist. He's not a warmonger. The enemy is. The enemy is. We are patriotic Americans. We stand with our armed forces and our commander-in-chief. And those who do not, it is they who are the saboteurs. Whether they be in the media, whether they be podcasters and de-influencers, that's their new name. De-influencers. Grifters. I don't care who the hell they are. Doesn't matter to me. We have a military operation going on here. They can't even unite behind our men and women in the military. Cowards. Cowards. They're giving aid and comfort to an enemy that is the worst kind of enemy, that wants to kill each and every one of us, slaughter us. And if they had nuclear weapons, that is exactly what they would do. As I've said over and over again, they killed 50,000 citizens, young people, and they didn't even blink. They'd kill 1 million if they have to. They exist. They live to die, this regime. They live to die as long as they take all of us with them. President Trump is a man of enormous common sense and courage. Thank God he's president of the United States. Thank God it's not Newsom. I'll get to him later. Kamala Harris, or any of the rest of the reprobates. The Hate America First crowd. Fake MAGA. The isolationist neo-fascists. These people are repulsive. They don't represent you and me. But they're out in the open. They're exposing themselves, and it's ugly. Very ugly. They hate our country. They hate America. They hate our Judeo-Christian values. They hate Jews. They hate Christians. They hate Donald Trump. Some of them have been hanging on Donald Trump's coattails in order to enrich themselves, but they're exposed now. This military operation has been a spectacular success, and it's just begun. 5 days ago, Khomeini is dead. The entire leadership is wiped out. Their air force is non-existent. The skies are wide open. The Navy is destroyed. In 5 days' time. In 5 days' time. And the man, the senior Islamist Nazi, who was plotting and planning the assassinations of our great president, he was eliminated today by the Israelis. By the Israelis. They eliminated him. These are our brothers in arms. The Persian people in Iran, they are our brothers in arms, brothers and sisters. The Kurds, who are now taking up arms, another group of courageous people, taking up arms against the Islamo-Nazi in Iran. Courageous and great people. Even the Arabs and the Muslim regimes near and around Iran and Israel have joined us out of their own desire for survival. Donald Trump has united all these elements. The more we win, the more the Democrats in Congress hate it. The more we win, the more Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Bannon and the rest of the losers, pathetic, poisonous, whatever, they don't like it. They're rooting for the enemy. The Islamists in our own country, the jihadi Islamist imams, they're actually praying over Khomeini's death. The enemy within. The Marxists, the Islamists, the official Democrat Party, the woke Reich, R-E-I-C-H, neo-Nazi isolationists. That's who they are. Now, I'm going to spend some time on war. What does the Constitution say? What did your framers of the Constitution say? There was a vote, United States Senate, right down party lines except for Fetterman joined the Republicans and Rand Paul joined the Democrats. Rand Paul is a phony, a fraud, and a fake. He's a radical libertarian. That's what he is. He is not a constitutionalist. There's absolutely nothing in our constitutional history or our Constitution that gives 535 members of Congress the power over the president to determine whether we go to war and how we fight our war. They have the power of the purse, and that's all they have. So Mr. Constitution, Rand Paul, is a phony and a fraud and a fake. Thomas Massey, another. They're not constitutionalists. They're nut jobs. They're crackpots. I love this line, that the battle we're fighting with this enemy, the Democrats pretend, what's the threat? What's the mission? Nobody will explain it. You have to be dumber than a doorknob to make that comment, or the biggest propagandist in existence. We know exactly why this is being fought. We know exactly why. I just interviewed Steve Witkoff. He told us why. In a month and a half, they would have had 25 nuclear missiles. But the Democrats ignored the interview. They ignored it altogether. So did the major media. Not one major media outlet, like I predicted yesterday. None reported on what Witkoff said. They don't have to report on what I say. They don't even have to say it's on my show. But they didn't report on what he said because they have a narrative. It's the Democrat Party narrative. It's the enemy narrative. Before it was Hamas's narrative. Now it's the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran's narrative. But it's never, never about America. The president was told that they're going to have 24 nuclear weapons, 24 in a month and a half. He was told that they announced at the first meeting that they had enough nuclear material for 11 bombs, which they could build in a week to 10 days. That's what Witkoff said. And they were stunned, Witkoff and Kushner. They couldn't believe it. They were bragging about it. And they had no intention, none, of pulling back on anything. And the president saw he didn't have time. We didn't have time. And now we have these Lilliputians. These cheap politicians out there saying, there's been no explanation. There's been explanation after explanation after explanation. But let me ask you something, Mr. and Mrs. America. How many explanations do you need? None. We've had people killed by this regime, men and women in uniform, American citizens, directly and indirectly. They've tried to assassinate our president, and the Democrats say this was a war of choice, a war of choice. They're not fit to lead as they push Operation Sabotage. Sabotage of we, the American people. This isn't even about the president. It's not about the Republicans. It's about the well-being of you and me, Mr. and Mrs. America. And the Democrats are saying, so what if Iran gets nuclear weapons? After all, our great hero Obama paved the way for them to get nuclear weapons. So what if they get nuclear weapons? After all, Biden, by lifting restrictions and giving them cash, gave them $100 billion. So what? They're the enemy within. They are the enemy within. By the way, before I take the break, I want to tell these Islamist bastards that run this organization CARE, a Hamas front group that I've been dealing with for 20 years. We know exactly who you are and what you are, thanks to the FBI wiretapping, the meeting in the Marriott Hotel next to the Philadelphia International Airport. You are here to destroy this country. You are a Hamas front group. Nawad, or whatever the hell the guy's name is, the CEO, celebrated October 7th. They seek the overthrow of this republic. They seek the extermination of Jews. That's right, I said it. And now they're trying to destroy my friend Sid Rosenberg, who's the biggest host in New York City, the morning host on WABC. Let me tell you something. You're not going to get away with any of that. Period. You don't like what he said? I don't like what you do. I don't like your objectives. You've got your little state directors. We've played what they have said about our country. You're the enemy. And more Americans know it. And you're not going to silence us. We're not intimidated by you. We're going to defeat you. You don't get to defeat us. This is America.
Mark Levin.
We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
I'm going to tell you a story. A story that unfortunately most of you have never heard before. In 1985, 3 years before a gentleman by the name of Higgins was kidnapped, William Francis Buckley, a retired Army lieutenant colonel working for the CIA, was kidnapped, brutally tortured, and murdered by Hezbollah. On February 17, 1988, 3 years later, this situation repeated itself when Higgins, who was serving as the chief observer group in Lebanon and senior military observer for the United Nations Military Observer Group, he was abducted. Higgins was driving alone on the coastal highway between Tira and Decorah in southern Lebanon, returning from a meeting with a local leader of the Anam movement, when a car blocked the road in front of him and forced him to stop, after which he was pulled from his vehicle by armed men suspected of being affiliated with Hezbollah. As a reaction to his abduction, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 618 demanding his release. During his captivity, he was interrogated and brutally tortured. On April 21, 1988, a public statement in Arabic, along with black and white pictures of a disheveled and scruffy Higgins, was sent by the kidnappers to the news agency Reuters, in which they proclaimed that Higgins was a war criminal. It would be tried by a tribunal of the oppressed. The kidnappers, who claimed responsibility for Higgins' capture, claimed to form part of a Shia Muslim terrorist organization called the Organization of the Oppressed on Earth. I'm sure that would have gotten Bernie's attention, if not support, which was in reality a pro-Iranian wing of Hezbollah. They hanged him. They hanged him. They videotaped it. And they let him hang there for a long time. These are the people we're fighting, the Israelis are fighting. Subhumans. It's easy for politicians who get special privileges,
who dress nice every day, put a tie on, a skirt on, get their haircuts and their hair done, have nice meals, have staffers running around and helping them, have all the leisure that one can imagine, enormous power, massive egos, a lot of media. On Capitol Hill today, going on and on. I want you to remember something. I want you to remember the faces of all those young people in Iran. The age of your son or your daughter, your grandson or your granddaughter, who were brutally murdered. Some of whom were tortured, some of whom were raped, some of whom were imprisoned and executed, but all of whom were murdered by grown men with weapons. And I will never forget the faces of these Iranian young people staring into the sky with their eyes wide open. I often think about it. I often think to myself, what were these kids thinking? What were they thinking when they were being murdered? When Megyn Kelly says this is Mark Levin's war, I wear that with a badge of honor, even though it's a lie and it's intended to smear me. But I wear it with a badge of honor. It's not Mark Levin's war. But if I had any role behind this microphone or behind the TV camera in urging our country and rallying our people to destroy this enemy, I hope that'll be part of my epithet. I have no ego in this game. People attack me viciously. People call me all kinds of very nasty names, and I don't care. And there's more going on than I can reveal to you, but I'm not going to. For my sake and my family's sake. But I will always do what's right. This is about our country. This is about those poor kids that were brutalized like that. This is about the Islamist regime that wants to blow our families off the face of the earth. And the idea that we would sit back and pretend we have some ceasefire, some peace deal, we'd even enter into an agreement that would ensure that they would get the weapons that they want, is a crime against humanity. So go ahead. Call me whatever you want. I just know this, Megyn Kelly. I'm proud of who I am and what I've said and what I believe, and the people I support, the people who I consider friends and associates. I'm proud of the way I conduct myself. Whether it's behind this microphone, the Fox cameras, or now my new video podcast. I don't need to tell my kids to close their eyes and ears about anything I've ever said or done. I'm proud of the guests I bring here and present to you. That I use these platforms for good. I'm proud of the opportunity to speak to you as I am right now. And I'll do it as long as I can, or as long as you'll have me. It won't be forever. I understand what's at stake. Everything. These are not irrelevant debates. These programs have a purpose. When I come behind this microphone, my wife will tell you, I not only come prepared, I come here on a mission. I don't want to see us lose this country. There'll never be another United States of America. And so I will call out the Islamists, even if they try to get us fired. I will call out the Marxists, and I will call out the neo-fascists, who may be the worst of the bunch. I'm not embarrassed by what I do and what I've said and what I believe. Tucker Carlson, he's too stupid to be embarrassed. But he will embarrass generations of his family. These people give aid and comfort to the enemy. They play their podcasts on state-run TV in Iran, state-run TV in Qatar, state-run TV in Russia. Why do they do that? Is that okay by you? As for Megyn Kelly, I've never told her who she should associate with, but I will definitely comment on it. I've never told her who she should distance herself from. I could care less. She's digging her own hole. She doesn't have a principled bone in her body. She works long and hard on her physical features and obviously abandons her conscience. That's up to her. I don't give a damn. Tucker Carlson is mourning right now. Even his beloved Qatar has turned on him and the Iranian regime. Al Jazeera has criticized him, so I guess he'll buy a home in Moscow now. These are people who've become wealthy off this country, who've become famous or in some cases infamous, and they hate our country. They can say what they will. But when you say the things that you say about our country in the middle of a military campaign, you hate our country. They hate our country. They're all about themselves. They're all about grifting. They're all about how much money they're going to make and how many people are going to follow them. I started Liberty's Voice, my video podcast. I'm not going to make any money, I doubt. It's all my money going into it. But it doesn't matter. It's another platform where they live, where people on that platform need to hear a different side, a pro-American patriotic side. I am proud of our president. I am proud of our Secretary of State. I am proud of our Secretary of Defense. I am proud of our CIA director. I am proud of the whole team that has done a superlative job in defending our country. I view this as a peace mission to take out this regime after half a century of terrorism and mass murder and brutality and torture and rape. I thank this administration for protecting my family and your family. That's the job of our government. It's the number one job, if not the only real job. And they've taken it seriously. I pray for the heroes who volunteer to defend this country. We have no draft. And so when I hear a Hakeem Jeffries saying we're losing the war, I have nothing but deep contempt for that man and for all the Democrats who try to use this military campaign as a political tool to try to exploit it, who look for failure to empower themselves in their own rotten, good-for-nothing lives and careers. And I look at the Islamists, some of whom are new to this country, some of whom are first generation. The Talibs and Omars. The Senk Ungers, I think his name is. The Mehdi Hassans. I have grave contempt for these people. They know what they're doing, and I know what they're doing. And you know what they're doing, too. This is all part of the enemy within. It's a daunting challenge we face, America. But we take one day at a time.
That's what we do.